Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. Today I am here to update my Panda face palette. This is the second year in a row that I'm doing this project. It was a project that I didn't do for ages because I just didn't have enough face palettes in my collection. However, I acquired quite a few over the last like 2-3 years, I would say. So I thought it was time to kind of introduce this project and start getting some of them out. So last year I was working on an hourglass palette. It was the Ambient Edit Ghost palette. But this year I am working on a highlighter palette, and the highlighter palette comes from MAC. So I'm going to share with you where I'm standing with that palette today and how much progress I was able to make in the last month. But before I jump into the video, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Let's jump into the video. So like I said, I am working on a MAC highlighting palette, and it's this one right here. This is the Flashing Eyes Extra Dimension Skin Finish Trio in Light. So it has, as the name suggests, 3 different highlighters in it, and I'm going to insert the footage of what this one looked like when I first rolled it in. It was, I think, basically brand new. I might have used a couple shades, but yeah, mostly untouched when I first rolled it in. So this is what it looked like last month, and as you can see, there was a little bit of a difference. I'm mainly focused on the middle shade and then the last shade in the palette, and kind of split my time between those two. So that's kind of where we're standing at the last update, and this is what the palette looks like today. So as you can see, there is hopefully a little bit of difference. You might be able to see which shades I've been focusing on the most on. Yeah, I'm of course going to talk you through the usage in a second, but this here is the overview. So I will have the comparisons pictures up there, but again, this is what the palette looks like. So there is definitely some usage on the palette, but let me talk you through each shade in order. So the first shade in the palette is the most boring shade because I actually haven't used this one at all. This one is like a really pale, like white highlighter. You can see it there on my finger. You can see how light it is. So it's hard for me to reach for this one because it's so pale. It does give a little bit of a white cast on my skin. So it's been tricky to reach for. I have used it 4 times in the project, which was all in the first month. I think I used it all for Unicorn highlight at that time. So not ideal, and this past month I didn't reach for it at all, so a bit of a fail with that product, but it is what it is. I think if I don't finish that shade by the end of the year, that's gonna be fine by me. And I might also be able to use this one with the darker shade I'm going to talk about in a second at some point in the year, mixing these two to make a better shade for me. So that shade, by the way, is called Glitz Out, so no more uses in the past month. The second shade in the palette is called There She Glows, and that is the first of largest highlighter in the palette. You can see that the size is bigger, and it's also the darkest shade. So swatching it out, you might be able to see there on my finger that it has a bit of a base. I don't know if you can pick that up. It's obviously very reflective, but I think you can tell there that it has a bit more of a base, which makes it a little bit trickier for me to reach for. However, I have been mixing this one with a different highlighter which I have in my yellow product pan, and that is from the Sleek Solstice palette. So I am kind of toning it down a little bit with that shade. So I've been reaching for this one a little bit. I haven't reached for it as much as I did the first month though. The first month this one was in the project, I reached for it 18 times, and in the past month I was only able to reach for this specific shade 5 additional times for a total of 23. So again, have been using it but not as much as previous, so you're probably not going to see as much of a difference in this highlighter this month as you did the previous month or the previous update. Then the last shade in the palette is called Out on the Tinsel Town, and this is definitely where we're focusing my attention the most in the past month. This is a beautiful, beautiful highlighter. I'm actually wearing this one today, so if you can see on my cheek there, this is what it looks like. It is like a pink to gold type of highlighter. I'll give it a swatch on my finger too. So hopefully you can see there that this one isn't as like light as the white one, and it doesn't have that kind of bronzy white cast, so it's definitely easier for me to reach for. It does fit my skin tone quite nicely, and it gives a little bit of that kind of pink sheen without being too intense. So I do really like that shade. And with that specific shade, I have managed to reach for this one 13 additional times in the past month for a total of 22 in the project. So I did reach for this one actually more this past month than the first month, which was great to see. And I do definitely see some wear and tear on this pan. Hopefully you can see here like what it looks like compared to this one. This one is obviously most of the imprint still intact, and this one had the same imprint, but now you can see that it's definitely been worn down. So I'm happy to see that, and I'm happy to see that product moving. looking. Of course, I'm still very far away from pan, but I'm excited with how it looks at the moment. So that is my use for the palette in the past month. I haven't used it as much as I did in the first month. In the first month, of course, I reached for all of the shades. This month I did not reach for all of them, and I just have fewer usage because I feel like I haven't been doing my makeup as much, first of all, and second of all, I mean, February is also a shorter month, which might affect it a little bit, and also I have been like kind of splitting my attention with other highlighters too. So that is where I'm standing with the usage. I'm also going to talk you through the goals and the weight of the palette, but let me start with the weight. So looking at the weight of the palette, it has an advertised weight of 9 grams, which is quite a lot for the highlighters palette, but you know, I think it still should be maybe doable in a year, but it depends of course how much I use it. And looking at those 9 grams, in order to finish it, I need to finish an average of 0.75 grams per month in order to finish it. So that's kind of what I need to aim for if I want to finish the advertised weight. At the introduction of this project, the palette weighed 99.90 grams, so that was my starting point, and in the month of January I was able to finish 0.18 grams, so definitely nowhere close to that 0.75 grams, but a decent amount of product, I would still say. And at that point the palette weighed 99.72 grams, so that again was the weight point at the last update. And when it comes to what the palette weighs today, I was actually able to finish up less this month than I did last month, but that makes sense because I have less uses on it. And the palette now weighs 99.62 grams, which means that I was able to finish up exactly 0.10 grams. So again, definitely behind on the monthly average, but I'm realizing that that's probably going to be a case moving forward too. These highlighters are so thin, like it's a baked formula, so they're very thin. There's not a lot of kick up, and you know, you don't need too much product either, and that means that the highlighters will move quite slowly because I don't want to overuse them or anything like that, just to get the progress going. So we'll see where I stand with this palette at the end of the year, but you know, I think if I can just get some good use of it, get some pan showing, and maybe have one shade finished, that would probably be my end goal. But of course, the further I can push the palette, the better, but that's kind of where my thoughts are at the moment. So yeah, with the palette, I can't really like set like super specific goals just because there's only 3 shades. I don't think I can hit pan on anything in the next month, so I'm just going to tell you what I want to focus on. I do want to continue focusing on this highlighter because it has a lot of use and it's like my favorite shade for the tone that I am right now, and it also has the most like visible progress. I also want to continue using this one mixed with the sleek highlighter. That's something else I want to do, and I do also want to try to reach for this one. Again, I didn't reach for it at all in the past month, so I think maybe I'll put a usage goal of 5 on that, just to make sure that I'm reaching for all 3 shades. So that is going to be my short and sweet update for my Panda face palette. I really hope you enjoyed this update, and let me know if you've ever found this palette or a similar formula for MAC. Was it difficult getting through the highlighters? Were they deep? Let me know all the facts down below that can help me to get an idea how long this one will take. But I hope you guys are having an amazing day wherever you are, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye guys.